So welcome to week 2. So here's what I've got for you today. What I want to do quick is I just want to review last week and answer any questions that you may have, give you some support that you may need. I'm going to put up the one of the slides from last week. And let's talk just a little bit about the homework, the things that you did. And here's the deal. I'm not going to call on anybody because this is up to you. It's totally self-paced. But if there's something that you'd like to share, like looking at those 4 points that we talked about, if there's something that you would like to share that, hey, I did this and this is working out really well for me, or you know what, I know I need to do this and I'm really kind of stuck, this is a great time to throw that out and to get some coaching to get yourself past that. So we're going to kind of review those 4 points, and then I want to get into today, our focus is going to be on balance and stability. So I've got a whole thing, including a workout plan for you for the balance and stability. So that's kind of our agenda for today. So let me start out here. I'm going to just share my screen real quickly. Okay. All right, so you should be able to give me a thumbs up. You can see the screen, right? This is the homework. Perfect. This is the homework from last week. So essentially what we talked about is we really looked at all 4 areas of our life. And remember, as we go through this, one of the ways that you can improve quickly is by picking whatever the lowest hanging fruit is for you. I know that each and every one of you have some healthy habits. You also probably have some habits that you would like to make more healthy, or some habits that you'd like to completely eliminate. Get the ones that at first are easiest for you to do. Because if there's one thing I know is as time goes on, I'm continually working to replace and to refine my healthy habits. So we talked about these 4 areas. We talked about activity, our food, our social, and as well as our positive mental attitude. And I asked if you would take you create one action item in each of those areas and then start to implement it. So that's kind of a review of what we did. I'm going to stop sharing for the time being right now. Okay, and I think we're back on the screen. So if anyone, if 1 or 2 of you would like to share a little bit or throw something out and say, I've had a challenge with this, that's great too. Go ahead and just take yourself off mute and share what you'd like. Quiet. Okay. Hi, Shirley. All righty.
I enjoyed your suggestion of playing Uno online with someone else, but I could not find the correct app to do that. Does anybody know the correct app to do Uno online with other people? I downloaded one, but it didn't seem like I could invite friends.
I don't know it offhand. I have several clients who play it. That's how I found out about it, but let me see if I can get you an answer. Does anybody else know? If anybody else knows, just give me a quick thumbs up. Anybody? That's a great game. I'm still addicted to that game.
Is it on the computer or on your phone or both? Or
there's an app for the phone. Okay. All right. Hey, Laurie, can I put you on the spot for 1 second? Because you shared a challenge inside of the community. You're trying to get more water, and I got to tell you, you bit the elephant off it the whole time. You went for that 96 ounces. You're kind of like the water's cold, so I'm just diving in kind of girl. I can tell right away. How's it going?
It's actually going fine. I've hit or exceeded the goal every day since I started it. So I don't remember if we talked about this, but my husband and I are currently living in a little 1-bedroom apartment over our garage while we remodel. So we've only got 1 bathroom. And because I'm here all day, I thought, well, rather than put something on my phone to try to track or use my Apple Watch, how much water I drink, I'm just going to write it on the bathroom mirror because that's where the water is. And that's where I spend a lot of time now that I'm drinking all the water. So, so I just write it in a dry erase on the mirror. And I have the goal up there. And I honestly picked 96 ounces. I mean, you had said something like a third of your weight in ounces. So 96 is more than that for me, but I have a 16-ounce plastic cup in there, and so I thought I can drink 6 of those a day. So that's how I got 96. There's no science behind that number at all, other than it seemed a reasonable number. So I just mark off the hash marks throughout the day, and I try to stage it so that around lunchtime, if I'm not halfway through, I know I'm behind. And it's been fine. So, and then I do enter it into my phone at the end of the day so I can keep track of it in a trend. But I don't do it, glass by glass.
Okay.
Set up too. But yeah, that's worked great. Like I said, I'm not counting, I'm not counting coffee. It's strictly just tap water. Anything else I drink is above and beyond that amount.
Okay.
I was always told don't count coffee because it's got caffeine, so it kind of counteracts itself. So you can't really count it as water, even though technically there's still some value there. But
yep.
So yeah, if it's not pure water, I don't count it.
Cool. That's a lot of liquid. And I know I asked this question in the community, if you had started to see any differences yet in your body or in your thinking or.
Yeah, and I think I replied back that probably the biggest one is I don't feel as hungry between meals. And I know, I've always heard this and I've never been very good at it, but I tried to make myself this last week, if I get hungry, I go drink a glass of water and then I sort of reassess. And sometimes it's like, okay, I can go a little longer without a snack or something. So I do think I've snacked less in the last week.
Okay.
So the one I struggle with the most snacking wise is the after dinner. And it might be because I eat dinner early because my husband is an early to bedder, but I'm a later to bedder. So usually we'll eat about 5, but then I don't usually go to bed till like 11, and around 9:30 I get hungry. And so then I'm like, what is the right thing to snack on in the evening that, so I struggle with that, and usually by then I'm done with my water for the day. So, there's just.
Right.
So,
great question. Because technically, if you're eating at 5 o'clock, you're probably going to be hungry before you go to bed. Okay. I mean, physical hunger happens approximately 4 hours after our last meal, kind of somewhere in that time frame. So let me just tackle those before we get into that, just so that you know what Laurie talked about is there are many times that dehydration masks itself as hunger. So what she's doing is taking that drink of water is helping the body to potentially get what it needs. Because if it's been less than 4 hours, chances are you're thirsty and not really hungry. Okay. I mean, so that 4-hour mark is kind of the point where you should really be questioning your thought process. So great on that one. So some things that you could snack on before bed. What are some of the things that aren't necessarily the healthiest? What are some of the things that you like? Are you kind of a salt person? Are you looking for sweet? Are you actually looking for maybe a little meal before bed?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm, the stuff that I tend to gravitate, well, number one, we don't keep a ton of snacks around. My husband's more the snacker than I am. I try not to. So the stuff that is around is like toast, chips, maybe Fig Newtons, things like that. I've got some nuts, and I kind of try to do those. But I'm always like, okay, it's been 4 hours since I ate, but it's only an hour and a half before I go to bed. So I don't, I'm sort of trying to balance those two.
Exactly. Here's one of the things that I like. I tend to like protein because protein fills you up. Okay. Right. So I'd be looking at things like perhaps string cheese, right? Yep. A small, and the fat in regular cheese, even though we don't want a lot of extra stuff, the fat in regular cheese also helps to fill us up, as does the fat in the nuts. That's a good That's a good alternative. Another thing that I tend to do now, I don't eat regular yogurt. I eat almond milk yogurt. And if you're going to use yogurt, you need to make sure it's the plain kind, because, like the fruit on the bottom stuff has so much sugar in it. And like the Light and Fit ones have so much aspartame in them. You're better off getting a regular, and if you're eating this for breakfast, here's a little thing for anybody. You're better off getting the plain yogurts, and then having some frozen berries in the freezer, and just thawing those, and then they create a very nice juice, and you dump them right into the yogurt, and it's like having the fruit on the bottom, but you have the natural sugars from the berries to kind of sweeten the plain yogurt.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. The only yogurt I buy is plain Greek yogurt, but I hadn't really thought about having it at night. So yeah, that would be
yeah. And I will tell you, one of the things that I do is I have a protein powder that I really like. Do you use protein powders at all?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that I do is I take a small serving of yogurt and I put some protein powder into the yogurt, and I just stir it up. I actually, one of the ones I really like, if you have a Sprouts, does anyone have Sprouts near where they're at? Yeah. I like Sprouts. It's kind of like a Trader Joe's or like a Whole Foods, but it's less expensive. They have a salted caramel protein powder that's really quite tasty. So yeah. Does anybody else have any suggestions that they like, for a light snack later in the, or you may not eat it later in the evening, but a light snack that Laurie could use later in the evening? If you do, unmute yourself and just go ahead and share.
I participated in a restructuring of eating program through my health club called Balanced Habits. And they actually had me eating 5 times a day, and they have different, what the normal kind of size servings, and like you were saying, but to have protein and carbohydrates and a little fat every 3 or 4 hours. So the yogurt idea was wonderful that you mentioned. I'll try switching over to that. But to make sure you have like 2 servings of protein and maybe 2 rice cakes with a little peanut butter on it is an excellent evening snack, because that's just what they recommended, and it worked the first couple times I did it. So it was a good program. Really liked it.
Okay. Yeah, I think the thing I hadn't really thought about was getting some protein in there, because normal snack stuff isn't necessarily much protein. So, okay.
And that's what I would do. I would stay away from the carbohydrates and go towards the proteins and the fats. I mean, another thing would even be, I don't know if you like it, like a half an avocado. I mean.
Yeah, I don't really like it alone. So.
Okay. Well, you could always make a little salad. Put it in a tiny little salad with a little bit of dressing, because again, we've been trained to say that we as a country are afraid of fat. And we need dietary fat to help us with regular cellular processes. So fat doesn't make us fat. Eating too much makes us fat. And so healthy fats like the avocado, like the nuts, all those things that you're talking about will help us to feel more full.
Okay, good suggestions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, cool. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to share? And if not, we're going to move into balance. But if you'd like to, and this isn't your only time, you'll have plenty of time. Okay. Let's see. Paul, I see you came off mute, but I'm not hearing you.
Can't hear me?
There we go. Now I can hear you. Perfect. There we go.
Yeah, I've got a sweet tooth, and what I do sometimes, like Laurie mentioned, I eat early, so around 7, 8 o'clock, I start to crave something. So I have a machine, it's called a Champion Juicer, but it's got, I don't use it to juice. What I do is I put frozen fruit through it, and it comes out the other end as custard. And it's unbelievable. I mean, so like bananas, when I eat a lot of bananas, when they start getting overripe, I peel them and I wrap them in brown paper and I freeze them. So if I want a it's just a creamy banana, basically. I run the banana through this Champion juicer, and it comes out as banana custard. I put some blueberries and strawberries in with it frozen, and it's a great snack. There's like no calories, and it craves a sweet tooth, and it's not so bad before you go to sleep.
That sounds really good. And I have to tell you, a lot of people's eyes went like this. I don't know if you saw it. Would you mind putting a link to that
Sure.
device inside of the community so that we can find it if we'd like to?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Cool.
It's great. It's a great machine. I've had it for, I don't know, 20 years. I've actually had to replace it because I use it so much. But
well, that's a testament. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
okay.
Shirley.
I'd like to suggest to try, and it's a great idea. I would love to have that recipe, actually, but to try and add a little protein powder or peanut butter to that blender, and that adds a little protein to the mix and might make it even better as a nighttime snack.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fantastic. Great suggestions. Those are wonderful suggestions. Also, don't forget, one of the things you can do is you can get protein powder, or I'm sorry, peanut powder. So you can, if you like that, it doesn't have to be what we're accustomed to is the peanut butter out of the jar. You can actually get it so it looks like a protein powder, and it's just powdered peanut butter. And that it makes it much easier to add to shakes and things that you stir up, because then you don't get that sticky, sometimes how it's all glommed on the side of a blender or stuff like that. That usually works a little bit better. And the flavor is nice. It gives you that nice peanut flavor. Okay.
Hey, CJ and the group, can you say something about protein powders?
Sure. In terms of what is it that you would like to?
I don't know anything about it. I mean, I know it's out there, and I know there are different brands, but there's too many choices, and I haven't done the research to say, hey, why this one?
So I tell you what, Helen, would it be okay with you? Because on my original plan, what I had thought about doing is I'd like to to really get into nutrition a little bit more next week. And how about if we put that into the nutrition discussion, and I will make protein powders part of that discussion. Will that work? Great. Okay.
Yep.
And excuse me, but if I don't take notes when we're talking, if I don't write it down when we're talking, by the time the call is over, I'm going to say, what is it that I said I would do? Okay. All right. Powders for next week. Perfect. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Alexis, you had something?
What I've done for the last year or so is I follow kind of a loose intermittent fasting kind of schedule. So I'm really lucky. When I wake up, I'm not super hungry. So I've never been like, if I look at an egg first thing in the morning, I'm like, no, not for me. So what I've ended up doing is I try not to eat anything heavy after 7 o'clock at night, and then I don't eat until 11 o'clock in the morning. On days that I was playing pickleball, I would have a protein powder, either with spinach and yogurt or fruit, depending. I would make a blender thing like that to drink before I went out to play pickleball. But the intermittent fasting group, I mean, there's so much information online now about the benefits of following some kind of intermittent fasting, because you don't have to, you're not counting calories all the time. Yeah. So.
And I think you bring up a great point, and I may work that into next week's discussion as well. So, okay, cool. All right. Great. I love the sharing, because that's how we learn, right? We learn from each other. So let's jump in. I want to talk about balance. So I've got the PowerPoint for you. Give me just a second to get it up. This is interesting. I had to do a webinar on WebEx for, It changed all my PowerPoint controls. Can you see that? Can you just give me a thumbs up? It says balance overview. Is that the one? Perfect. Okay. All right. So when we talk about balance today, I meant to ask this question. Did you see the video that went up on the channel on Saturday on balance? Anybody see it? You can, okay. A few people have seen it. And I think I posted it inside the community too. When we talk about low-hanging fruit and really playing better pickleball, I think one of the areas that we could all improve on, no matter how good you are, is in your balance, because balance involves a lot of different things. It involves our core strength. There's so many positive things from getting better balance. And so that's what I want to talk about today is we're first going to talk about, I want to share with you the difference between balance and stability so that you understand exactly what they are, because we need to practice both of them. I want to talk about a little bit more in depth about some of the age-related issues that we may have with balance, to make sure that if you have some of these issues, you know, it's common for us to have a little problem with balance as we get older, but if you're finding that you're having this big gap with balance, that's where you really want to get some professional advice and professional help and work with your doctor. So I'm going to try and dive into those a little bit, and then I'm going to help you to create a plan. And in actuality, I've kind of already laid out the template, and I'm going to have a template for you so that you can start to utilize it actually based off last week's video. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. So first of all, just balance and stability really quick. So balance is the ability to control your body against gravity. So think of it as statics. Balance, this is the static part of it. So balance would be when you're just standing up, not moving at all. You're just standing in one place. Balance would be when you're standing in one place and you lift your foot in the air. That's balance. It's very static. Stability is the ability to control your body while it's moving. It's dynamic. It's got movement to it. So balance would be walking. Balance would be standing with your foot in the air and then lifting the foot that's in there, rotating it in a circle, right? Or rotating from the hip. In pickleball, we have both static and dynamic balance, right? So an example in pickleball would be when you're standing at the net and you're hitting volleys, okay? So you're at the non-volley zone and you're hitting volleys. And if a ball comes to you, basically right on your paddle, you know how a lot of times we get those gifts that come right in towards our body, and I really don't have to move anything more than my arm in front of me, that's a pretty static motion. Stability is when I have to reach for that volley, or I have to shuffle my feet and move my feet. That's stability. So that's more of the dynamic balance. And we have both static and dynamic balance in pickleball. You know, yoga is probably the easiest way to think of this, because we've all, if we haven't practiced yoga, we've all probably seen yoga poses. This is Warrior One. So as they're standing in this pose, that's a static pose. They're standing in that pose and they're holding that pose. When they move from this pose into the next pose, so let's say they bring their arms up over the air and then they're going to bring their feet together to meet each other, that's the dynamic part of this. So as you look at things like basically every sport we play, yoga is just kind of an easy example. Sometimes it's a little harder to see it in pickleball. We need to have both dynamic as well as static balance to be good at sports. And so in that video, and I'll share more about that, there were some of those moves that started out as static, because we have to have good static balance first to be able to develop dynamic balance. Okay, and so it's like static is the base, then we develop dynamic. All right, so that's the difference between the two. Let me just see, I'm going to stop the share because I cannot see you all when I have this. Does anybody have any questions on the difference between static and dynamic balance? That's pretty self-explanatory. Everybody's good? Okay, all right. Go ahead, Shirley. Unmute yourself.
So I've done your video a few times, and when I'm trying them, I'm on my entire foot but I've been encouraged to stay on my toes to play pickleball.
Mhm.
So should I be doing some of these balance activities on my toes?
That's a great question. So when we're doing balance, typically it really isn't any different than pickleball. We're really using the front part of our foot or around the ball of our foot. And I feel the majority of weight, if I were to cut the foot into 3 places, the ball forward, the arch is number 2, and the heel is number 3. When I'm doing balance moves, even though my foot is on the ground, I feel the majority of the weight in and around the ball and the front of the foot. So a way you can increase that feeling is as you do these balance moves, actually feel like you're pressing the ball, the foot into the ground, and you're going to start to get an increased sense of that. Okay. All right. So let me go back here. All righty. There we go. All right. So now let's talk about some age-related issues. I don't know anybody who's gotten over 50 who hasn't had a change in our hearing or a change in our eyesight, right? It's all getting different. And those are things that definitely impact our balance. If you saw in the video, one of the things that I said is if you really want to challenge yourself, close your eyes. The minute we don't have our sense of sight connected to our body, that's going to challenge our balance. So these 2 issues can impact us greatly. Now, if you have hearing issues, specifically if you've had inner ear issues or vertigo issues, things like that, those can impact your balance greatly. So, work with your healthcare professionals on that if it's more than just a small loss. Now, small losses are going to impact us, but we can get through those generally by adding some of the balance exercises that I've got coming your way, right? Some of the ones that you saw in the videos. So would be the small changes in eyesight. I do want to say something about our eyesight, though, is as we know, it tends to change as we age. When was the last time you got a vision exam? Okay, probably not a bad idea. I mean, it's not just about your balance, but one of the things that happens a lot in pickleball, and I particularly see this when I watch tournament video from players 50 and above, one of the things that we know we need to do is we need to watch, if this is my paddle, we know we need to watch the ball all the way to the paddle. And what I typically see a lot of people doing when they're playing pickleball is I see them start to follow the ball and then the head stops moving about here while the ball continues to move to the paddle. If you're not watching the ball move to the paddle, you're increasing your chances of an off-center hit. So those are some of the things, get your eyesight checked if you haven't had it checked in a while. Another thing that changes for us is our muscular strength and endurance. Once we hit the age of 40, we start to lose about 1% of our muscle mass a year. When we are over 50, that gets to about 1.25% of our muscle mass a year. So strength training becomes imperative for us. And so strength and endurance, what's the difference? Muscular strength and muscular endurance. So muscular strength is our ability to lift a weight. So the example I love to use is it's your ability to lift a 10-pound grocery bag, whereas muscular endurance is your ability to take that grocery bag and walk across the parking lot to the car, to hold that bag and walk across. So those things are changing. And I know that many of you already do strength and endurance training, or muscular strength and endurance training. So keep that up. And if you didn't, we'll be talking about it because it's time to get started. I do see this, though, is a lot of times, even if we're doing muscular strength and endurance, we kind of miss out on core strength. And again, core strength tends to decrease. So to define core, I'm specifically talking about basically from just above my breasts down to my gluteals, right, to my upper thighs. And so that encompasses not just my stomach. I think we think a lot about core strength as just our stomach, but it's also our lower back and our gluteal strength. So that's extremely important in balance exercises. Our reflexes are changing, right? I know I'm not as fast as I used to be. It's definitely changing, and that can change our balance. In fact, I have an older video. I'm going to put it in the links that I share in the community today, where there are things that you can do to help to improve a variety of reflexes. But we have to work on them because they're naturally diminishing. Proprioception, and this surely could be a little bit of what you were talking about in experience. So that's our position and movement awareness, essentially, is what it is. I see you have a question, Paul. Let me, oh, you don't, okay. But I'm going to take some questions at the end of at the end of this as well, just in case you have any questions. So proprioception is essentially our spatial awareness, the awareness of our body. And the science really isn't sure exactly why it happens, but our proprioception tends to decrease as we get older. That's why in the video, one of the things that I mentioned doing was trying those exercises without shoes on. When you're barefoot, you have a greater, there's a lot of proprioreceptors inside of the foot, and you have a greater sense of that typically when you're barefoot. So one of the things that I encourage people to try when they're doing the balance moves would be, if you're doing it twice a day, do one time with shoes on, do one time with shoes off. Okay? And just to see if there's a difference. I think you'll notice, there is a difference. Now, it's important, one of the things that I like to do when I'm doing this is I do my balance exercises in my pickleball shoes. Okay, so I do one time barefoot, one time in the pickleball shoes. So certain health conditions are definitely going to impact your balance. And, those, what I'm really talking about here are chronic conditions. If you have some of those, make sure that you're working with your healthcare practitioners to find solutions. It can be simple things like blood pressure can impact your health conditions, as can your medications. So if you're on some medications, make sure you have the conversation with your doctor. Are these going to impact your balance in any way? Because nobody wants to fall on the pickleball court, right? I mean, that's going to take us out. So as we begin to practice balance, I bring up these age-related issues so that you can kind of look at these and say, you know what, if I'm just normal, if I'm normal in my hearing loss, if I'm kind of normal in my eyesight, those are things that will be addressed through a good program. If you're having challenges beyond normal, involve your healthcare practitioners to help you out, and then institute a balance program. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and see if we have any questions. All right, so stop that. If you have any questions, right now is a good time. Go ahead and take yourself off mute and we'll ask the question. No? Okay, go ahead, Shirley.
I've had a half a knee replacement, and it seems like that leg has less balance than my other leg. Have you heard of that?
How long ago did you have the knee replacement?
A year and a half.
My guess is it's because the leg, and this is only a guess, I couldn't tell you unless I saw, but my guess is it's because there's less strength in that knee than there is in the other leg. So when we go through that traumatic of a replacement, it's the muscles around the knee that we have to make sure that we work to strengthen again. So you may want to work with, if you've got a physical therapist or someone like that, you may want to work with them specifically on strengthening some of the muscles around the knee. Okay. All righty. No other questions? Cool.
When I do the balance stuff, I've been trying to do those more often. I used to do yoga, and then I stopped because I had a series of surgeries in my hands, so I couldn't really do a lot of the poses. And I still struggle with arthritis in my hands, and I've been looking at, like, they have hand-free yoga videos you can do where you're doing a lot of the standing poses, but you're not doing like downward dog and stuff like that. Got all that weight on your hands and wrists. But well, number one, I noticed that my balance, now that I've kind of started doing these balance things, I noticed my balance is better than it was when I did yoga, and I think that that's because of pickleball. I think it's because I got more active, my balance actually got better. But what gets me with the balance is I do a series of things while I'm brushing my teeth. Because that's just, somebody told me one time, just that's a good time to like stand on one foot and work on your back.
Absolutely.
So and plus my toothbrush times it, so it works. So anyway, but where it really gets me, it's not so much that I can't hold the balance, it's that it really hurts in my shins.
In your shins.
And again, it's probably just a muscle that's not developed, but my shins really ache after about 30 seconds of standing on one foot.
So is it like, so if let's talk about your right foot just for to help me here. So is it on the right side or the left side of the actual shin bone that you're feeling some?
I think it's kind of on the inside, so the left side of my right leg.
Okay.
The shin.
All right. So here's what tends to happen to us as we age, right? Because we all know that trips and falls, the older we get, right? I mean, trips and falls are common and they can be very health threatening. What tends to happen, there are a couple really small muscles alongside the shin that tend to get weak. And those are the muscles. So if this is my foot, right? Those are the muscles that control the front of the foot, our toes. As those muscles tend to weaken, they allow our toes to drop a little bit, right? Which is why we're more susceptible to those falls. So a good way to strengthen those muscles is as you're just standing, and the first time you do this, you're going to probably want to have something close by, like a counter or a chair or something to do that, right? Just stand up nice and tall, and we're going to say, this is my foot, and I want you to elevate your toe off the ground. Okay. And just start by holding that position, right? Hold it for, start with 15 seconds and then increase to 30 seconds. All right. Start with that. When you are comfortable with that, the next part to that progression is now walking forward. So my toes are in the air and I'm taking small steps forward, stop, and then walk backward. Again, the first time you do that, if you haven't done that before, because those muscles could be really weak, you may want to have something right by you that you could catch yourself with, okay? And hold on to as you start to walk backwards.
So I'm basically walking on my heels, sort of?
You got it. You're walking on your heels.
Okay.
Yep. I'll see if I can find a video. And if not, I can shoot one.
Yeah, because I'll get doing them and it's like I could hold this longer, but it's a more of a muscle thing than a balance thing that keeps me holding it.
I'll see if I can find a video with that one to share. Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. Go ahead, Alexis. Oh, can't hear you. Take yourself off mute.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay, Laurie, thanks for bringing that up because there was one PT exercise that they said, go up on your toes when you're at, excuse me, at the sink in the kitchen. So if you're already doing something when you're brushing your teeth, when you're doing dishes, you can stand on your toes for a little bit and then stand on your heels for a little bit. So it's like few seconds of each. But I have a question about nighttime leg cramps. Because when in the middle of the night, if I stretch out, sometimes I just get this bad cramp right in my calf.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I have to get up and walk on it in order for it to calm down. So what should I do to make that better?
Well, some of that can be diet related. Let's take that conversation. We'll take that conversation offline. Because that would be now some of that can be medical related, right? I mean, that's very real, but some of that could also be diet related, that perhaps you're lacking in some certain nutrients.
Potassium. I eat a lot of bananas.
Yeah. Well, and it may not be getting absorbed as much as you like, but let's go ahead and take that conversation offline. Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else?
I had a question.
Yep.
You mentioned that when you get past a certain age, you're losing so much muscle every year. And
yep.
When you get past 50 or 60, it starts to accelerate.
Yes.
I was told that when you get past a certain age, you can no longer build muscle. So is strength training to slow down the loss of muscle? Because I mean, first of all, do you agree that you can't build muscle past a certain age?
No, I
You
don't.
don't agree with it?
No, I don't. I haven't seen, and here's why. I would tell you, I haven't seen the science behind that. And unfortunately, the science behind nutrition as well as our physical, it changes a lot, right? What was in today is kind of, you know, what was the latest yesterday is not the most tomorrow. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I can tell you all about that. But I haven't seen the science to support that. What I can say is that 1% that we're automatically losing, if we're weight training, we can keep that. We can stay strong. So we can keep that through weight training. And sometimes I forget to say that when I share those statistics. So thank you for saying that.
Okay, cool.
Okay. All right. Okay, let me jump back up here. I want to now share let me go, where are we going? Come on down here. All right, so now that we've talked about that, let's go into a balanced training plan. So there's really kind of, this is comprehensive, and you don't have to scribble a lot of notes. I have a PDF that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to show it to you in this slide presentation. I'll have a PDF, which I will put up in the group a little bit later today, that has all this information. So you don't have to run through and jot all this down, okay? So in the balanced training program, there are really going to be 3 things that I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you take a little test to tell you where you are with your static balance. Because if you remember what I said before, is you need to have static balance as a precursor to dynamic balance, okay? Then we're going to do, I'm going to show you the workout. It'll have 3 core strength activities in it, because as I mentioned, I think core strength is essential and it's key. I'm also going to give some workarounds for, you know, knees. I anticipated having some of the knee issues, as well as potentially some of the wrist issues and being on your hands. And then I'm going to show you that workout. So the very first thing, this is pretty simple. This is a balance test, and it's just standing on one foot, and your feet are shoulder width apart. You're going to lift one leg and hold it as long as possible. And you're going to do it on both sides, because chances are you have one side that's better than the other. Most of us are better on our more dominant side. So if we're right-handed, we tend to be better on our right side. Lefties tend to be better on their left side. You can use your phone as a timer. And the easy way to do this is put your phone as a timer down in front of you and just start the timer so that you can see it. Get yourself into position, get ready, lift the leg off the ground when you see the timer hit an even number, right? So the timer is already running and you can see the timer, maybe it's already on 30 seconds. And when it gets to 30 seconds, then you lift the foot off the ground and time yourself to see how long you can hold it. I suggest that you do this both barefooted and in your pickleball shoes, just to see, is there a difference for you, you know, and how big a difference potentially would there be? Then the second part of this is try to balance with your eyes closed. Now you notice the times are significantly different with your eyes closed. And so what I recommend here is when you're trying this is make sure that you have something like a chair or a counter very close to you, so that if you felt it, you could just reach out and touch the counter or the chair for support. So have some kind of prop to help you when you do the eyes closed. And then this chart, it'll have on there, this chart basically breaks down in age to kind of let you know where you are at in terms of balance. But even if you fall in the excellent area, there's always room to improve our balance. I will tell you this, you know, I love pickleball, but I love skiing. And in pickleball, my consequences for not staying in balance are generally not as severe as my consequences for not staying in balance while I'm skiing. They're potentially much more severe. So I really pay a lot of attention to my balance and continuing to work and improve my balance, no matter how good I think it may be. So once you've completed the balance test, the next thing will be, there will be 3 core exercises. And I'm just going to go through these very briefly for you. I do have videos for each one, but I wanted to just share a little bit so you can see a couple screenshots. So the very first one on the upper left, it's me in the camo in the camo leggings. So that very first one would be a plank. And rather than doing sit-ups, you know, we're the generation where you remember the presidential physical fitness test, right? You got to do so many sit-ups, right? It's not about the sit-ups, really. It is about planks and core strength. So in this particular one, I'm actually showing you the beginner version of this. And what I want to point out are a couple of things. And I go into this in detail in the video, but I want to share this with you here. You'll notice that my shoulders are directly over my elbows. Okay, so I've eliminated the wrist issues here for you. You don't have to do a core, a plank in a full arm extension. You can, and if that's where you're at, I do offer some additional things in the video to take the pressure off of your wrists. As far as your knees go, in this position, put a mat down on the floor and then grab some extra towel to put under your knees. Most people don't have an issue with the plank as I'm illustrating it here because the direct pressure really isn't on your knees. Okay, it's not like I'm going to do the bird dog in just a second. Most people don't have a challenge with this. And this is the very basic one. This is the beginner one. In the more advanced versions, excuse me, we're actually on our toes. So the first one would be the plank. And again, there are accompanying videos for all of these. The one on the right-hand side would be the bird dog. So if you have an issue with a knee, I'm looking for some alternatives for you for this. I haven't found any that I like as well. I would say this, try and put a little, again, the little padding underneath the knee. On the wrist, what you could do, my hand is flat, but you could take just a simple dumbbell and hold a dumbbell so that your wrist is straight holding the dumbbell. Or one of the versions that I actually show later on in this video are to put your hand on the knuckle so that you're not putting any stress on your wrist. So your hand isn't like this, it's like this on the ground. But you'll notice here I have my shoulder directly over my hand and I have my hip directly over my knee. In the bird dog, I lift the opposite hand and the opposite leg. And in the beginner version, I simply hold it here. In the advanced versions, I start to take the arm that's out and bring the elbow to the knee of the leg that's out. So I'm going to bring them together under my body. And again, I've got a video to help you with both of these. The last one is a glute bridge. I'm sorry I didn't have me in a video. You're probably looking at that and saying, wow, she got about like 30 years younger in that one. And I'm using, like I said, I'm a certified personal trainer, so I'm using some of the resources I have on my site. So it's not me in the video that you will be seeing for that one, but you still will have a video. And simply a glute bridge here is you're laying on your back and you're going to bring your heels towards your butt, and then you're going to lift your butt off the ground. Now, she's probably 20 something. Most of us aren't going to get that high, especially if you haven't been doing that. We might get 3 or 4 inches off the ground. That's okay. That's a starting point. We're going to lift that up and we're going to hold it, and then we will return it down. If you're already doing these, if you're accustomed to these, the advanced version is the one that you see on the right side, and that's where she has her leg up in the air. It's even with her knee. She does that first, and then using one leg, she presses up doing the glute bridge. She'll hold it for about 10 to 15 seconds, bring it down, and go back up. So those are the 3 core strength exercises that I have for you. And as I said, I have accompanying videos so that you could, so that you can do those. Let me dive in now to the rest of the program. And if you've seen the video from the other day, you've already seen the rest of the program. So there are going to be 3 programs for you to choose from. And the good news is you can mix and match. You may have a really good at balance, but maybe your core strength isn't so good. So you might use the beginner core program with the intermediate balance program. But here's what it looks like. So there's 3 different programs: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Each one of these will have a little warm-up. We never want to do a balance program or any program, right? We don't want to play pickleball. You know I'm the evangelist of that, right? We don't want to play pickleball without giving our bodies time to warm up. So we're going to start by warming up. And this is where mom told you, you know, good posture. This is like good posture is key here, right? We're standing tall. We're engaging that core, which means we're feeling like we're pulling our stomach into our spine. And don't be afraid to start slowly. Start slowly, see where you are, and then work your way up. So in this beginner program, there are a couple of things. Over here, when you see all of these names over here on this side, if you were to click that link on the PDF that I send to you, it will take you to a video of that particular exercise. In the balance videos, these are all from the video that I posted on the Better Pickleball site on Saturday. These links are all different. So if you're working on the beginner program, it's going to take you to the beginner link. If you're in the intermediate program, it's going to take you to the intermediate progression. And if you're doing the advanced, it's going to take you to the advanced progression. Okay? So it's called a timestamp inside of YouTube. I can send you to a specific spot in the videos. So that's what this is doing. Now, once you're in there, you can always go forward and backward, right? If that one was too easy, you can just let it play to get to a harder one. Or if it was too hard, you can always go backwards. But those will take you to the timestamps on the video. So you'll have the chance, and you're probably only going to need that maybe the first few times that you actually do this. Once you get accustomed to doing that, you'll know exactly what it is that you want to do. So here in the beginner program, everything we're going to do here in the beginner program, I would want you to use a prop, meaning that, you know, that walking stick, a chair, a counter, have something close by for you to reach out to. And the way this reads is this, is I'm going to have you, you're going to start up here. So you would start with the bird dog, right? So that's the exercise we'd start with. And then you're going to do 2 sets. And it's either going to tell you the amount of repetitions that you do or the time that you hold it for. So in this instance, I'm going to do 2 sets and I'm going to try to hold for 15 seconds. Okay? And I'm going to do each side. So I do my left leg first. I hold for 15 seconds. I take a break. Okay? And then I come back and I do my right leg. Okay? Then I move to the next one. Then I go ahead and I move to the plank. I do 1 set, I hold it for 15 seconds, I take a break, I do a 2nd set, I hold it for 15 seconds. Then I do the bridge. I'm losing my cursor. Then I do the bridge. I do 1 set, hold it for 15 seconds, go back, do a 2nd set. Hold it for 15 seconds. So I work my way down this progression first. Okay? Then I come down here after I've done the core exercises. Now I come down here into standing on 1 foot. And this progression, I do just a little bit differently, just because sometimes, you know, balance, standing in that same balance position can get really hard. So this is going to be 2 sets each. So what we'll do here is I'm going to stand on 1 foot. I'm going to do 1 set for 15 seconds, take a break, and then I'm going to move to the next exercise. So I want to do everything here is pretty much on the right foot first, and then go back to the top and do it on the left foot next. Because you want to do you have to do both sides on each of these. Okay? So it can be really tough. Now, if you're strong, if you're really strong, you can continue to do the same leg for your sets, just the way we did the top progression. But for the most part, people need that little bit of an extra break as we go through there. So if you find this confusing, just let me know and we can discuss it at the end, because sometimes that's what people find the most confusing is how do I change off and how do I make it the best for me. What I've also included in all of these, which you'll see is different between the 3 programs, is you're either doing 2 sets or 3 sets of these, and your reps or your time is increasing. So the difficulty is increasing. So if you start here with the beginner position, beginner program as an example, let's take standing on 1 foot, and you're able to do 2 sets and hold it for 15 seconds each, then you want to go into a progression, because our body doesn't change if we don't challenge it. You know, if you could stand there and hold it for 15 seconds, you know, for a year, keep doing that, your balance is not going to improve, because at some point in time you will have stopped challenging it. So when you get comfortable doing 2 sets and holding it for 15 seconds, you need to do 1 of 2 things. You either need to eliminate the prop, right? Get rid of the prop, see if you can hold it for 15 seconds, or still using the prop, increase your time to 30 seconds. Either one of those. But working our way up in terms of time, reps, or eliminating props is what will challenge our bodies. Okay? All right. So let me stop here. I have one more slide for you, which is a pretty easy one, but let me stop here because I want to answer any questions you have about that progression. Yes, no, are we good?
Is this like an everyday thing, 3 times a week? Or what do you?
Great question. I've included a calendar for you. I've included a calendar for you, and my recommendation would be 1 week you do it every other day. So 1 week you're doing 4 times a week. One week you're doing 3 times a week. Do it a minimum of once a day. You could maybe, if you've got time, like right now, sometimes we don't have a lot else to do. See if you can mix it into your day. As an example, I have an alarm. I think I told you this last time. I have an alarm set on my phone that goes off every hour. And typically I walk the stairs, right? I just walk up and down my stairs for a while. But one of the things I do in those times is I'll just do this balance routine very quickly. So incorporate it as often as you like, but that'll be the recommendation. Helen, I think you had a question next. Take yourself off mute.
Right. It was just answered.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yep. And that's in the PDF. I'll put that PDF link up in the community. So you can download it. And my recommendation would be the first time you download it, because of those clickable links, just in case you need them. If you have them on a phone, you should be able to click right on that link and it pops up either on your phone or your iPad, and you can have that right in front of you and do the exercise right there. Okay, are we good on the plan? Looks like. Okay, all right. I have one last slide to share. Let's see. Hang on 1 second. I need to go down here. Okay. So here's the other thing is what I've given you would be specific balance workouts, right? We're carving out time for things. But as Laurie said, you can do balance workouts when you're standing at the sink brushing your teeth. You can do them when you're standing at the sink brushing dishes. Some of you are already working out at the gym. We can add balance concepts to different things that we do by using different tools. So as an example, if you're somebody who's already working out and you're already working out with weights, the 3 pictures on the right could be quite beneficial to you. Like, so the first one, the lady on the upper right-hand side that she's doing a plank on a stability ball. So she's adding more difficulty by using this stability ball. But you don't just have to do the plank on that. If you're already working out, let's just say you're working upper body that day, right? So you're doing some strength training exercises. You could sit on the ball and do, say, your presses on the ball. That's going to help with your core strength. You could, if you're doing presses, you could stand on one leg, lift one foot a couple inches off the ground and do presses. If you saw my picture from yesterday, I was doing a boot camp workout in Peloton. And while we're doing the boot camp workout, we are working on balance. And one of the things we were doing, we were working on planks. We're walking out from a standing position to a plank. And the way he had us walk out was to stand to get in balance and then walk out, bend over with one foot on the ground, get all the way to the ground, and then walk ourselves out with one foot still up in the air. Okay. So just another way of challenging yourself while you're doing that. Most of the time you see most coaches would just have you walk out using 2 feet. Walking out using 1 feet gives you extra challenge to your stability. Stability balls can be great for that, and they're also fantastic for our core workouts. If you don't have one, they're pretty inexpensive. They're less than 20 bucks. They usually come with a little thing that you can blow up. They are different sizes. There's 3 different sizes, and they're based on height. So make sure you get one that's the appropriate height for you, but there's usually always a sizing chart in there for you. But you can do a lot of things. Even just sitting on this, I'll tell you what's great for a core is sit on this, get yourself comfortable on it, and then just lift one leg off the ground, try and keep them both off the ground while you're on this wobbly ball. It can be quite challenging. There are 2 types of balance balls. One has nothing in the middle. That's the more difficult balance balls. There are some that have some weights on the inside of the ball, and those are generally more stable. So if you're thinking about getting a stability ball and you're not really great at balance workouts yet, I'd recommend the one with the stability on the inside to start out with. And the chances are it's a tiny bit more expensive, maybe $5 to $7-ish more expensive. If you go to the gym, I know we're not hitting the gym right now, but if you go to the gym, the pink ball down at the bottom is called a Bosu ball, and that can be used for a variety of activities. And again, it's the same concept as a balance ball is. Most people can't stand on a balance ball, on the balance stability ball that's on top. Even I can't. I can get my knees on it. I can't stand. I know one guy at the gym, and he's the ski coach. He can stand on the balance ball. And if you watch top level young skiers, they can go from their knees to their feet on the balance ball and actually stand on it. I can't do that. Never been able to. But the Bosu ball has the stable bottom and yet the wobbly top. So you can do a lot of activities on that Bosu ball to challenge all sorts of different muscles that you have. That little black disc in the center is another good way to challenge. You need 2 of those typically. That's about big enough for 1 foot. And those are things that you could stand on. And again, what they're doing is they're unstable surfaces. So the minute we get on an unstable surface, all those little muscles in our legs start working to try and balance us. Yoga definitely has both movements that are static as well as dynamic. That can be a great way to improve your balance. Tai Chi, up on the other left-hand side, you're moving from static poses into dynamic poses, and that's a good one. Dancing, right? I mean, I know I used to like to dance a lot when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I don't dance as much anymore. And I've been doing some dance routines, being stuck in the house, and some of what Peloton is offering, some different classes. And so I've been doing some dance routines, and I have to tell you, it's good for the balance. It's also good for the brain because I'm learning new moves, right? And moving my body in different directions. And then the last one down on the bottom is a wobble board. And wobble boards are made in all different shapes and sizes. This is one of the more difficult ones because it has simply a round bottom. You will see other ones with rockers. You can see ones that are longer. Those can all be devices to help you to gain some balance. And here's the bottom line. The stronger your core is and the more balanced you become, that's going to translate to playing pickleball. You're going to be able to move and you're going to be able to get some of those shots that you maybe didn't get to as easily before. You're probably going to get a few less off center shots because your movement is better to the ball, right? You're not just simply reaching. You're able to move your body in a dynamic way, getting to the ball. So look for different ways to challenge yourself with activities that you're already doing. I'm not suggesting that you add these. I'm just saying, if you're doing some of these, or if you've thought of some of these, or if you're like, hey, you know what, I've got a few extra minutes, I'd like to do something different, turn on something and just dance a little bit, right? You know, just move around the house just a little bit. Those are the types of things that improve not just our balance, but can improve our mood as well. Okay, so let me stop this share. There we go. All right, so we're all back. Okay, so have you got any questions? If you do, now would be the time to take yourself off mute and go ahead and ask. So it doesn't look like there's any questions. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just unmute you all for just a second. So now you're all in, you all should be unmuted. How come you didn't unmute? Oh, because I think some of you had muted yourself. There we go. All right, perfect. All right, so everybody's unmuted. I will be posting this video. I won't get to it till it won't go up until later tonight. An hour-long video takes forever to upload to YouTube. Even though I have faster upload service, it takes a really long time. So this video will be uploaded into the coaching calls. All you need to use is that same link you had before. It's inside of a list of coaching calls. So this will just appear as coaching call number 2 if you want to review it. I will be posting the PDFs to the beginner, the intermediate, and the advanced routine. And it will actually, it's one PDF with 5 with 5 pages in it. So you can grab the beginner, you can grab the intermediate and the advanced. You can see all of what they are. I would say this in picking the one for you, start at the place where you're challenged. Don't start at the one that's super duper easy for you. Okay, remember, you don't change if you don't challenge yourself. Now don't get to one that's way far over your head either. Okay, don't like, oh, I have to be up here. If it's the beginner one, start at the beginner one. You know, that's fine. That's what it's designed for you to do. So I'll post that PDF, and then I will also be posting some additional resources. I've got a couple different balance videos on the channel. This isn't the first time I've blogged about that, as well as reflexes and eyesight ones. And here's what I'm trying to do for you. I know it's a lot of information in a short period of time. I'm trying to give you a ton of resources that you take and say, okay, here's my lowest hanging fruit. This is the one that I need right now. Those are great. Don't be like the squirrel, because I know I can get there too, right? From the movie Up, where the dog is doing this, he's focused, and all of a sudden it's squirrel. Don't be like the squirrel, because I can be like the squirrel too and think, oh my God, I got to do this and this and this and this and this. No. You're not going to be able to accomplish that. Say, right now, I'm going to start with this one or these 2 things. I'm going to start to incorporate them into my routine. And as I build that routine and get comfortable with it, I will add more to it. Okay?
Makes sense.
All right. Okay. You're welcome. All righty. Well, thank you for all the wonderful suggestions today. And thanks for spending time with me. You know, Alexis, let's reach out after today and let me see I wrote down the leg cramps, and let's you and I take that discussion offline and see if I can offer you some solutions. Shirley, give the bird dog a try. Let me know if that bothers your knee, right?
I think with a cushion, I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah.
It's only a half a knee replacement, so I am able to put my weight on my knees.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, as we get older, we tend to have some knee injuries. So just add that little bit of cushion underneath it. And if it's really bothering your knees, let me see if I can find you some alternative exercises for that. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much. You all have a good day.
Thank you.
All right.